Hi, Connor.
Hi, Albert. How are you? I think
Very
you're
good, thank you. How are you?
I think you're in landscape.
How should I put it?
Yeah.
Better?
Yeah, that's brilliant. How are you? All good?
All good. Thank you very much for inviting me to this podcast series you are starting.
Yeah, of course, no problem. I suppose for everyone that's watching, first of all, thank you for joining in also. This podcast is the very first episode of the Lowdown, a podcast that will be exploring more and more kind of the insights into the football industry, of which Albert is our first guest today. Long-time friend, long-time Barcelona socio, senior accounts executive at Fuse as well. So I think Albert will be a pretty good start to the podcast. We're here today to discuss all things Barcelona, Albert's love for the club, their season to date, the preview of the upcoming PSG clash in the Champions League, the upcoming presidential elections in March, and also the club's finances and the future of Lionel Messi. So, Albert, if you don't mind starting, just to give the audience a brief description of yourself, your background, and your love for Barcelona.
Sure. So, yeah, I was born in Barcelona, 1992, the year Barcelona won the first Champions League. It wasn't even called Champions League back then. It was the year after that it started to be, it was renamed. And yeah, I was actually born on a day of El Clásico where Barcelona beat Real Madrid. And I'm the son of two families, both from my mom and my dad's side. They are very big Barca fans. So yeah, I think it's in my blood. I would say that becoming a Barca fan, and actually the day after being born, I was registered as a Barca member. So even if before I could speak or I could walk, I was a Barca member. So I didn't really have any choice, but I was very, very happy with the decision my parents took for me. And yeah, I'm a law graduate, and actually I qualified lawyer in Spain. And then just before completing my qualifications, I moved to London to study a degree in football business and marketing. And after that, I got a job here still in London at Fuse, which is a marketing agency that, among other things, we work with some Champions League clients. So yeah, I'm enjoying it there, and I joined this company 3 years ago. And yeah, I would say that would be the summary.
That's brilliant. And of course, we've spoken over the years that you've been very lucky to be born into a Barcelona family. When you look at the alternative, being born into an Espanyol one in Barcelona, you're quite lucky.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess
many more ups than downs, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's as I said, it's something that when I was born, after when I was conscious of what was going on, I was very happy to be part of it. But at the same time, I think Barca are very aligned with my values, and what I try to represent as a person is what Barca are meant to represent as a club as well. It's more than a club. So yeah, I'm very proud about it.
That's brilliant. And of course, you've been lucky enough to attend, 3-4 Champions League finals as a Barcelona fan in the flesh. I suppose, given everything to date, what's your fondest Barcelona memory or memories even?
I would say, I mean, I attended the Champions League final in 2006 in Paris against Arsenal. And I had never seen Barcelona winning the Champions League before. So I think being able to attend this game was very impressive, especially because I think we had a better squad than Arsenal. And nonetheless, we started losing the game. And Arsenal were playing with 10 men, and Barca didn't couldn't make the equalizer. So I think it was a big relief when Larsson scored the equalizer, and I was so happy when Belletti scored the winner with very few minutes to go under the rain. So happy days.
Amazing. And of course, elaborating upon the Champions League finals, you've attended the Paris final in 2006, Rome in 2009, Wembley in 2011, Berlin in 2015. I suppose in amongst all of that, you had the Pep Guardiola dream team between 2008, 2012. I mean, those years were pretty unparalleled for a football fan, let alone a Barcelona fan. For you, I mean, what do those years remind you of? What do they represent?
Well, I mean, it was very impressive, because I remember on the second game with Guardiola in charge, the second La Liga game, we had scored we had lost the first game at Numancia, and on the second game we were playing at home against Racing. I think it was Racing Santander, and that day we couldn't win, but we played so well that my uncle told me, "Don't worry, I know we haven't won a game yet, despite having played 2 games already, but I'm very sure we're gonna win the league." At that point, I was very disappointed because, yeah, we had 1 point out of 6. But I kind of agreed with him, because you could see that with a very short period of time, Guardiola had already implemented some methods that the players were following, and the passing style was already there, and it was very enjoyable. You know, it was brilliant to watch it, and I think we could say that Barca were a little bit lucky to win the treble on Guardiola's first season, because, you know, let's say we all remember the Iniesta's goal at Stamford Bridge in the very last minute. I mean, there were there was in the cup, I think it was a game against Mallorca where Pinto saved a penalty. I mean, you need to have these lucky moments, but overall, the football we played that season was incredible. In 2018, 2008, 2009, because I think at that moment, the best advantage of this team is that the opponents still didn't know how Barca were playing. You know, it came by surprise, I would say. So even if the level of football was not as good as in, for example, 2011, where, in my opinion, we reached the highest point as a team. I think that the opponents still didn't know how to stop us, and that's what made Barca achieve so much that season. You know, also the fact that we had so many players with a lot of desire. You know, like even Eto'o, let's say that Guardiola wanted out at the start of the season. He wanted to prove a point, and he had an amazing campaign. And it was the season Messi really exploded, because he didn't get injured in the whole season. So I think, I mean, it was a very nice time to be a Barca fan, to be fair.
Of course. I mean, for me today, that's the best football I've ever witnessed, even live in the flesh. To even see the Ballon d'Or awards, I believe, in 2010 at the podium, you have 3 La Masia graduates in Xavi, Iniesta, and Messi. It's something remarkable, really. However, fast forward to the present day, Albert, you know, things aren't they aren't all too well in Nou Camp. I mean, look at the season to date. There was obviously the short turnaround after the 8-2 loss to Bayern Munich. You had the Lionel Messi saga, Ronald Koeman coming in for Kike Setien, the Bartomeu resignation mid-season. You look at the current squad, they trail Atleti 8 points after their 5-1 victory against Alaves last night. Atleti with a game in hand, spearheaded by no one other than Luis Suarez, top scorer in La Liga this season with 16 goals. You have a team that's lost 2-0 in the first leg of the Copa del Rey semi-final against Sevilla. I mean, apart from that, pretty uneventful.
Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of a roller coaster of a season, to be fair. And I think when the season started, no one was particularly optimistic because, I mean, there had been this announcement by Messi that he wanted to leave, and no one really knew what would happen with him. And we also knew that some key players have had to leave for financial reasons, mainly, like Rakitic or Luis Suarez, that even if, in my opinion, they were not at their peak, they were still very important to the team. And yeah, I think Barca fans were a little bit kind of thinking this is going to be a transition period, also because no one really know what would happen to the board. And yeah, now we don't even have a president at the moment. So I would say, I know Barca always aim to win everything, but in Barca fans' mindset, it's a little bit of, okay, if this season doesn't go that well, but at least we can already build something for the future. I think it's going to be enough, So yeah, I would say at that point where, as you mentioned, we are behind Atletico Madrid by a few points in La Liga, and then in Copa del Rey, we don't know what's going to happen because we lost the first leg 2-0. And then in the Champions League, we have a very difficult tie against PSG. To be fair, I would be very surprised if we end up winning any of these trophies. But at the same time, I think Barca are among these kind of clubs that can win games only by the badge they have on their shirt. So you never know. You cannot rule us out of any competition because we have actually had some good games where we have played beautiful football, especially offensively. So if we're inspired, I mean, anything can happen, really.
Of course, I think one of the main issues I wanted to touch on with yourself, Albert, was recruitment last summer. We've seen, of course, high earners such as Ivan Rakitic, Luis Suarez, and even the likes of Arturo Nelson Semedo leaving the club. However, we also saw the likes of Marco Correa and Carlos Perez leaving, La Masia graduates who hardly got a chance in the club's first team. I mean, what does that mean for the pathway going forward for La Masia graduates? That you see two players worthy, of their La Liga caliber players. You're seeing Marco Correa, he's done great things at Getafe the last 2-3 seasons. Carlos Perez, although initially struggling at Roma, seems to be finding his feet currently. I mean, what does that say for La Masia graduates coming forward in the future?
I think, I mean, the thing is, La Masia is so nice that there's always talent coming up. The problem is, are we doing our best to use this talent? In my opinion, maybe now there has been a change, but because it was needed from a financial perspective, which is a mistake. I think you should trust La Masia and the players coming from the reserves team anytime, no matter how successful you've been or how much money you're making, because these are players that have been playing with the same style and with the same winning mindset for all their years in this academy. So I think even if they don't look ready when they make their debut, or maybe even after 5 or 10 games, I would say that if you gave them enough time to prove themselves, they will respond. And that's what has happened to the likes of Sergio Busquets. Initially, he made a lot of mistakes in his first season. I remember him losing many balls in key areas of the pitch, and he had a lot of criticism, and Guardiola was clever enough to keep playing him. And the same with Pedro. If you think about Pedro, I don't think he's a particularly talented player, but he can play many positions in attack. He's fast, and he always gives 100%. And more importantly, he had kind of this accuracy in front of the net, So I think if you see Pedro's first games with Barca, I wouldn't say he was anything special, but it's the continuity he was given that allowed him to shine. And even Sergi Roberto, which is probably the last Barca Academy player that has been there for playing more or less regularly for a few years, Sergi Roberto had to spend many games on the stands, not even being on the squad for the game, and he had to spend a lot of games on the bench as well. And he would maybe play one day as a midfielder, and the next day as a winger, and the next day as a right back, as he has been playing more regularly recently. So I think it's a matter of time that these players will shine. So they deserve a chance. And now with Koeman, I think even Riqui Puig, Koeman was not trusting Riqui Puig that much. And now because the likes of Alanya are on loan, and because of some injuries like Coutinho's injury, he's being given more playing time, and he's showing that despite maybe not being very consistent, he has the enough quality to be on that squad, and that's why instead of spending so much money on the likes of Coutinho, for example, or even Dembélé, I mean, even if he's playing quite well recently, I think you should trust your academy players because you already have them. They are willing to give it all because it's their dream to play for the first team. And yeah, I mean, if after giving them a chance they still don't perform, you can always sell them later, but at least give them a chance to the ones that more or less you can see that would have the right skills,
Of course. I just think, of course, we spoke about this, privately before, that you have the mantra at Barcelona, makes you a club more than a club. And I think two firm principles which Barcelona is built upon, its foundation, is the first being La Masia, the academy, making sure there's a pathway there that facilitates the progression of players right through from La Masia into the first team. And second of all, being fan owned, both of which I think right now are currently, they're at trouble, they're at odds with the realities of this post-COVID world in football with the European Super League, so on and so forth. But of course, getting back to the present day, we spoke earlier on, we said Barcelona's season's been pretty up and down with Koeman. The low point of the season perhaps was the 3-0 defeat at home to Juventus last match day of the Champions League group stage. Since then, Barcelona have gone on, according to my stats, to win 14 of their last 18 games, albeit they've lost the Spanish Super Cup final in between to Bilbao, but only Real Betis in the underlying statistics have had a higher expected goals than Barcelona in any of those 18 games. So there is cause for hope. Of course, you've seen Koeman, and you're more aware than I am. He's changed formation recently from 4-3-3 back to 4-2-3-1. We've seen Frankie de Jong recover some of his Ajax form from the 2018-29 season, playing from that deeper midfield position, which has also freed up the likes of Antoine Griezmann and Ousmane Dembele, as you said yourself. And we've seen the young Pedri who's come in, and he's looked quite the player, linking up with Jordi Alba and Lionel Messi.
Yeah, no, as you mentioned, I think Pedri has surprised everyone because he came out of nowhere, and despite him being a very big Barca fan, no one really knew anything about him, and he has been playing like a very experienced player, and it's difficult to look at him and not think about Iniesta, for example. And I think Koeman was very stubborn at the beginning of the season because he would stick to his 4-2-3-1 formation, and as you said, more recently he changed formation and is playing with 4-3-3 more regularly. Maybe also because of the players he has now. Maybe he thought that with Coutinho it was easier to have another formation, but the reality is that we were very unbalanced on the pitch when it comes to doing the transition between attacking and defending. And this information has allowed players like the young to shine. And yeah, I think little by little he's finding Koeman is finding the right approach to this team, and that's why I think, despite maybe having had a slow start or having been a season where we don't really have the squad that you would expect from Barca, we still have the chance to fight for anything. We can win any team, And I think that the big mistake in our season was, as you mentioned as well, the losing against Juventus at home was unacceptable, because only with a draw we would have been the first of the groups, and our record at Camp Nou in the Champions League was incredible. And we allowed, I think even with a 1-0 defeat, we would still have been the first of the group. And we lost dramatically against them. And that's why actually we're playing PSG and not an easier club, probably. I know that they will say in the Champions League there's no easy team to play, but no one wanted to play against PSG in the round of 16. It's fine if you find them in the quarterfinals, because it's a pure draw and not it doesn't depend on what you did in the past. But yeah, it was in Barca's hand to be the first of the group, and we didn't perform that day, and it's a shame, because for the rest of the games in the group stage we did quite well, including winning at Juventus Stadium, which was particularly, I would say, challenging.
Brilliant. And I think going forward this week, the PSG clash brings its own opportunities. Look at PSG this season. I mean, they've had that Champions League final defeat hangover with Tuchel leaving, Pochettino coming in. There's still that kind of sense of transition at the club. We're looking at them. They've dropped down to second and third in recent weeks, falling behind the likes of Lille and Lyon, Ligue 1. Neymar's injury, he'll miss both legs now, I believe, against Barcelona. So, I mean, how do you see this clash panning out?
Yeah, to be fair, I don't really know what to expect, because I haven't been following PSG that much. I don't really watch Ligue 1. But I think we need to be aware that the game is of 180 minutes, because when last time we played them, that the famous comeback at Camp Nou, that we scored 6 against them to make it 6-1 and overcome the 4-0 defeat of the first game. I think the reason why we got to this point was that we were thinking during the first leg, okay, let's try to score a goal here. And then we were moving forward too quickly, and that's why we conceded 4 goals. Because we were not thinking that the game was actually 180 minutes. If we had been more patient and think, okay, instead of trying so desperately to score a goal, let's remain calm, think that, okay, things are not going well today. We have the chance to come back on the second leg. And I think it's the way we should approach it. If things are not going well, remain calm, because there will still be a lot of minutes to score, to come back, and I'm not really sure if we should be confident, because at the end of the day, PSG were the finalists last season in the Champions League, and they have a tremendous squad. Even if Neymar cannot play, they have so many big names that, especially with our defense, that we have been playing the likes of Umtiti, even Junior, Mingueza. I'm not saying they are bad players, but they are obviously maybe not the ones that you would expect to be playing in a game like that at the start of the season. So if you think about what Mbappe could do to them, I'm a little bit worried. But at the same time, as I was saying earlier, from an attacking point, Barca have been finding the right way forward, and I think if we manage to score a couple of goals, and I think we'll be more than fine, And Messi is in the right form, in the right shape. I think despite his low start, he's also has been scoring quite a lot of goals recently. So with him on the pitch, anything is possible.
Of course, sure. And then switching things, Albert, from on the pitch matters to off the pitch matters. Of course, no one can talk about Barcelona at the moment without mentioning the upcoming presidential election in early March. On one hand, you have Victor Font, who very much seems to be the fans' ticket at the moment. And then on the other hand, you have Juan Laporta, who seems to be the old flame who worked in the previous incumbency, worked with the likes of Ferran Soriano, now the CEO of City Football Group, Mark Inglé, amongst others. He's very much Johan Cruyff's choice back in 2002. If I may ask, if it's not too much of a personal question, Albert, where will your vote be going on March the 14th?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I won't be able to vote because I'm in London. I'm not planning to travel to Barcelona for the elections. And despite having opened the voting to everyone from via post, this is only available if you live in Catalonia or in Spain or in Andorra. So I won't have the chance to vote. And nonetheless, I think these two candidates are capable to move the club forward and bring it back to the glory days. And I think they are representing kind of different models, if you want, because I would say Laporta represents more of the focus is more on the president, who has all the leadership and has all the focus. And then with Victor Font, I think he has more of a shared leadership and has been recruiting some people from the sporting industry that are have been liaising with top companies and managing companies with a high turnover. So I think Laporta already proved in the past that he can do it, and he took charge of the club in 2003 when the situation was, not going to say very similar because we were not in the middle of a pandemic, but we were after the Joan Gaspard years that were terrible. I think we didn't win any trophy. So yeah, he was full of passion and desire, and all the board were up for it. And I think the situation is quite similar again, and in the sense that we're not performing on the pitch as we're meant to. Financially, we're struggling, and we need to reposition the club to where we want it, or where the fans want it. And that's why I think Laporta could be a good choice, because he already proved it. And then Victor Font, from what I've seen, he's a very clever guy. His slogan is kind of yes to the future, because he's always kind of trying to implement these new technologies, including the electronic vote, which actually would have allowed me to vote from London. So it would have been nice in that sense. And he has been working on this project for a very, very long time. And he has been surrounding himself by a big amount of talented people. So I think no matter who wins, we're gonna get on the right track. And I think I would say there's a third candidate that no one really mentions because he's not so powerful from a media standpoint, and he got less signatures to be able to present himself as a candidate, which is Tony Fresha. And I think, in my opinion, he's probably the weakest candidate. So, and I don't give him any chance on the elections, to be fair. So I think Laporta is going to win it because people already know him, and we are in a bad situation. And we have this expression of that says it's better to go for someone that is bad, but you know well, that instead of trying to have someone that you don't really know and might do well. No, so I think Catalan people will stand by this kind of motto, and Laporta will be the winner. But to be fair, if it was Victor Font, I would be okay with it as well, because I think he's working very hard, and he knows he has a very clear plan of how to.
Of course, and I suppose the number one thing on any new president's to-do list at Barcelona, Albert, will be to address the perilous financial situation at the club. Now, I suppose you would know a lot more than myself or anyone listening as to how this came to be, but I just cannot fathom how in 2019 Barcelona becomes the first sporting franchise in the history of sport to make over $1 billion in a calendar year. How now, only 2 years later, COVID aside, you end up with a debt of 1.1 billion euros, 760 million of that, which is short term, and I believe here 260 million euros of that to be repaid by June. I just don't understand that whatsoever.
Yeah, it's ridiculous if you think about it, and it shows that despite the good effort that the previous board did in generating a lot of revenue, it was a little bit pointless from a financial standpoint, because all this money was going straight to the players, and I think probably many players were overpaid, not only on the wages but also the transfer fees. I mean, were ridiculous. As I mentioned earlier, Dembele and Coutinho, I think we paid over 120 million for each of them. So, as I said, when you have players in your reserves team that can perform, I'm not going to say at the same level, but if you gave them some continuity, would be able to become successful at the club. There's no point in spending so much money on anyone, because maybe the day after they will be injured, so they could spend a year on the sidelines. What's the point on spending so much on a single player? Even with Griezmann, who has been scoring quite regularly recently, I think there was no point in spending so much money in a player like him. So that was the big mistake from the previous board, that even if they were generating a lot of income, the player salaries and the transfer fees were so high that it was unsustainable. And when you are making so much money and only generating 2 million euros of benefits, that it's what happened before COVID, I believe, it's already showing you that this is not sustainable at all. If you're the club that is making more money ever, you should kind of save some of it, or generate a bigger margin, especially when you are your plan is to rebuild the stadium, and you haven't still sourced the right sponsor for the naming rights. So yeah, I mean, COVID was even, you can call it unlucky if you want, but even before that, you could tell that the club was not being managed in the right way. And I I made a lot of criticism about it. Even if at that point we're probably still winning La Liga, I was saying that this could not be the case. It didn't make sense for me how the money was spent. And sorry, I don't know if you wanted me to connect this with Messi's departure.
Well, all I was going to say, Albert, was what do you make then, given just in light of what you just said about the previous incumbent, Jose Maria Bartomeu, his comments about the Barcelona leadership group upon his resignation in October. He believed these 6 players had all the power within the club, that they were essentially victims of their own success. He didn't name the man himself, but Lionel Messi, that his very success at the club has inflated the basic salary of a Barcelona player to unsustainable levels. I mean, where do you sit on that?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is these players have been very successful, so they kind of deserved to continue at the club. And if you think about Luis Suarez, I mean, it's very hard to find a striker that has been so successful and has scored so many goals with the Barca shirt. But at the same time, we had to bear in mind that he was Messi's closest friend, and that he had been scoring a lot of goals for many seasons, and he was getting old. That was a problem, his age, I would say. And when you compare how much he was making and how much was he going to give back to the club in the upcoming seasons, I think it was the right decision to let him go, especially considering how the club was operating financially. And yeah, I mean, people were very concerned about this exchange between Artur and Pjanic, and because we were getting an older player, but I guess that's what the club needed financially at this point, and Artur was not maybe playing as well as people would have expected. So yeah, I think there were many salaries that were maybe too much, and players were getting very comfortable, and they had, as you mentioned, maybe too much power, and the coaches were kind of okay with it. I think if you look at what happened to Quique Setién, I think Quique Setién couldn't put in place the Barca style he was trying to implement originally, because he saw that the players had too much power, So I think one way of kind of allowing the coach to be more powerful was to get rid of some of this old guard and bring some fresh air, which is the players from the academy. At the same time, Koeman, I would say he's more demanding and more stubborn with his own ideas, and he has also, despite being okay with managing the players, he has more of a personality, a stronger personality to implement his own ideas, and don't let him be influenced by what the other players by what the players might think, or by what the press might say. So I think it's very important to have someone like him in this transitional era.
Of course. I think what you just spoke about there, Rory Smith of the New York Times echoed in his long-form piece on Barcelona's finances just now on Saturday. I believe he penned the piece, but also just the mismanagement from Bartomeu at a micro level in terms of being held to ransom by the likes of Borussia Dortmund and Liverpool when signing the likes of Ousmane Dembele, Philippe Coutinho. I mean, the club really did have no leverage after selling Neymar for so much to PSG that time. In addition, I mean, I don't know if you've heard of this, Albert, but apparently there's an annual €5 million payment to Atletico Madrid for first refusal of their players even. Is that something which you're aware of?
Are these 5 million? Say again, please.
5 million euros, an annual payment to Atletico Madrid for first refusal of any of their signings. That's an exclusive.
I mean, that's the kind of clauses that, yeah, I read something like that, but yeah, you don't even think about it, because at the end of the day, the fans don't have so much access to the finances, and you don't see this 5 million going somewhere else every year. But yeah, it's ridiculous that clauses like this one were signed, and I think Barca approached Griezmann kind of unlawfully, and we had to pay for it as well. So it's the previous board made a series of decisions that were against the club's interest and very kind of for the short term, instead of looking at the long term, which is what you should do when you are on the Barca board, because even if you are going to resign next month, you should manage the club as you're going to be there forever, or at least thinking that the person coming after you should find the club in a decent position. Also, because these people that are in the board are Barca fans themselves. You have to be a member of the club to be on the Barca board. So it's surprising that they got to this situation. Really, it's ridiculous.
Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Lionel Messi, your favorite topic. What's going to happen? I believe we had a small bit of an argument recently about this. I'm of the volition that surely it's simple. He leaves Barcelona recoup, let's say conservatively, 100 million euros of a transfer fee. They save 150 million euros in wages, gives the club boost the club's coffers by, let's say, €250 million. However, I think you have a different slant on that.
No, I mean, Messi is worth everything. If you think about it, it's not only the amount of goals he scores, it's not only the amount of assists he delivers. I don't know how to put it, but he came from the academy, so he didn't really cost the club anything. And he has been performing so well for so many years. I mean, I've seen Ronaldinho play, and if you look at the quality itself, you can even argue that he was very close to what Messi achieved. But Ronaldinho could only do it for 3 seasons, maybe. Messi has been doing it since the age of 20. I mean, he made his debut much earlier than that, but he has been performing consistently since then. And everything we have achieved as a club in the last decade is thanks to him. And I think all the brands that are club sponsors or kit manufacturers like Nike, Rakuten, these people have partnered with Barca only. I mean, they might have partnered with Barca for other reasons, but the reason why they are putting so much money into it, it's because they can associate their image to Messi. Messi is an Adidas player. Nike needed a way to associate themselves to Messi, and they thought that while they are the Barca kit manufacturer, they will be able to associate their brand to Messi. And I think the rest of brands that have been connected to Barca over the last few years, all they wanted really was to be able to connect their brand to this profile, So I think the day he leaves, all these brands will go away, or at least they will try to renegotiate their contracts with Barca and pay much less than they are currently paying. Because it's like when Cristiano Ronaldo left Real Madrid. I think Real Madrid has been missing a star player. They still have amazing players, but they don't have this player that really makes the difference in every game. So, and having this for a brand is fundamental. And Barca wouldn't have this player if Messi left. There is the potential that, let's say, Pedri or Ansu Fati, in 5 years' time, they become that player or they have that role within the team. But I think if Messi leaves, we would miss someone like him. And the problem is we couldn't find someone to this level elsewhere in the world because, first of all, because it doesn't exist. And second of all, because we don't have the money to buy anyone, really. So I think we have to try our best to keep Messi in the club no matter what. Because even if he's very old, he's what makes the club remain relevant to, internationally. And yeah, I think Real Madrid has signed Hazard after Ronaldo left, thinking it would be the star they were looking for, and look at what happened to him. So I think it's very, very hard to rely on someone that might perform well but might not. So just focus on what you have. Try to play Messi for as long as his body allows you to play him, and yeah, and then try to create someone from try to give chances to the people from the academy, so at some point they can reach, I'm not going to say his level, but a very similar level to his, because Messi, there will only be one, but Xavi or Iniesta, in my opinion, there can be more like them. So let's try to bring the future Xavi and Iniestas to the first squad,
Then I suppose just to close up on Albert, we've seen obviously the proliferation of private equity firms, which I know very much you're intrigued about given your role within the commercial side of football. We've seen a proliferation of private equity firms investing in the English Premier League, in Belgium, in France, in Serie A recently. Now, just coupled with football post-COVID, obviously missing out on gate receipts, Barcelona, for example, crippled not only by performances on the pitch, but the lack of financials off it. As regards the big gaping hole you have regarding football tourism, so on and so forth. Is there any chance that one day we see Barcelona's fan ownership model in jeopardy? Is it sustainable? We've heard rumours recently about Goldman Sachs giving the club $240 million US, I believe, to that effect, by selling a stake in Barca's non-sporting assets, including a content creating and merchandising side. Is that something which you ever foresee happening within the new camp?
In football, you never know because everything changes so quickly. And yeah, there are, I think money always finds the way in, even at Barca, we were a club that we didn't have a logo on our shirt. And then this changed quite recently. So, and I think for a matter, money is unfortunately becoming more important than values. But I think as a Barca fan, if you think about why do I support Barca, it's because it's a club that has, as I mentioned at the beginning, some values that I try to represent as a person. So the moment these values are gone, why do you keep being a Barca fan? There is this connection between Barcelona and Catalonia. There is this connection between Barcelona and an artistic style of play. So why would I support a club that is not owned by the fans? It's in the sense that we are the ones making the decisions, why would we allow someone else to make them instead of us, you know? And I think on the pitch performance is somehow the most important thing to many people. But in my opinion, I would rather see Barca playing in the second division with no money at all and having a club that represents the values they are meant to represent, instead of winning the Champions League every season, but having the money from, let's say, as we had from Qatar, but being like PSG, you know. I think this kind of types of ownership are against what the club represents. So, yeah, in my opinion, the current ownership model is what makes us unique. No, it's we are one of the very few clubs that can choose our own president and even organize an impeachment against them if we wanted to. We can take part actively in many of the decisions of the club, even if it's just annually. And I think it's what we should be aiming for as fans, you know, that to have as much power within the club as possible and not let anyone from outside that, despite having a lot of million, they have no knowledge about what this club represents. And we have many examples in football of clubs going completely disappearing even, just because they were run by people that not only they had no idea about football or about sport, all they cared about was the business, and that's not what you want when you are a fan, you know.
But anyways, I believe that's a wrap now, Albert. As always, it's a pleasure speaking with yourself. Personally, I know that you do tremendous work with fan engagement and commercial and partnership activations within football. Now, if people wanted to reach out to you, Albert, what's the best social media platform to contact you on?
Yeah, I think maybe LinkedIn. I'm not particularly active there when it comes to posting, but I always reply to people that message me. So if they look for Albert Bosch on the search bar and maybe at Fuse, which is the company I work for at the moment, I'm sure they will find me. So I encourage everyone to do it.
Likewise for me too. Albert, an absolute pleasure. I'll link those details in the show notes below. And thank you for joining. Thank you for being guest one on episode 1. Look forward to speaking.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, Connor.
Take care, Albert. Bye now.
Bye.